This is Stadium's most broken build ever. It allowed you and your entire team to become nearly unkillable. My Overhealth here is only being given by me. So, how does this build actually work? It's all based around this power that reduces your biotic field cooldown when you sprint. As you can see at quarter speed, instead of reducing the cooldown continuously, it actually reduces it by about a whole second in an instant. To be precise, it reduces it when you start sprinting and every half second after. If you repeatedly start sprinting, the cooldown will go down extremely fast, like seen here. That's 90% of the whole build, or at least why it's so broken. Wait, all we have are a lot of biotic fields. That's nice, we're in Yari now, but that's not broken. The next power is frontliners. When we use our biotic field, nearby allies gain a percentage of our max life as Overhealth. So if we use a lot of biotic fields, we give a lot of Overhealth to our team. These two powers, when combined, are the core of our build. The next power is Man on the Run. Biotic Field gives us 20% more max life. 20% more max life means we are giving 20% more Overhealth. The next power is Back Off. Allies inside of our biotic field take damage based on its healing output. This power is really fun, but it does have some issues. This power is based on ability power, but the strongest variation of the build is based on giving Overhealth, which is based on our max life. There is an alternative variation that revolves around this perk, but we'll talk about that later. Biotic Bullseye. Our build is based on placing biotic fields, not the biotic field itself. For this build to actually be strong, I will be doing the majority of the healing or overhealing for our team. I will become the sole support, and both of our supports can focus on dealing damage. Their team will have 3 DPS and 2 supports, but we will have 4 DPS, with me as the support. I can heal/overheal more than both of our supports combined. On round 3, I already provide about 130 overhealth per second in an AoE. Late game, it's around 300 per second. So, how does mitigation work? Well, that's a dumb question. When damage is dealt to overhealth or a shield or something, it's mitigated. So, how do you have more mitigation than they have damage? To be entirely honest, I don't know. I tried testing it, but the overhealth doesn't work in the training mode, so it's really hard to test. I thought it might be related to Kiriko clone, because her clones don't give her stats, but this happens in games without Kiriko, so I don't know. Sorry, tangent over. In normal Overwatch, mitigation is received from something like a shield. If you shoot Reinhardt's shield, you do not do damage, and he doesn't take damage that can be healed. This makes sense and works well. Shooting Reinhardt's shield should not provide ultimate charge to either hero. In normal Overwatch, almost all damage is equal. If you deal 1 damage, you get 1 ult point, and they can be healed for 1 ult point. I'm not actually sure how this works with armor, but doesn't matter. This works well in normal Overwatch, and it also works pretty well in Stadium, under normal circumstances. Stadium credits are largely based on damage and healing, not on mitigation. You do not get any credits from mitigation. This makes sense. You shouldn't get any credits from shooting Reinhardt's shield. If you shoot someone with overhealth, however, you will get credits for dealing damage, but they will take mitigation damage, so they cannot be healed. When we have bad teammates, it's not uncommon to be down tens of thousands of credits, which leads to them having much better perks. So, what actually counters having infinite health? There are a few things. To properly give all our allies overhealth, we have to stay grouped up. What is great against grouped up players? Area of effect, like Reinhardt Hammer or Ash Dynamite. Okay, but if you have infinite overhealth, Dynamite isn't going to kill you. That's very true. But Ash is going to get a huge amount of damage, which is going to become ult charge, and in Stadium, you get credits from damage, like I talked about earlier. Additionally, every 500 credits gives you 1 extra health. It's not a huge amount, it's only 100 health per 50,000 credits, but it does matter, especially when 1 dynamite can deal over 1,000 damage. Another list of counters are Zarya ult, Mei ult, and Reinhardt ult. They all stop us from sprinting, which stops us from generating overhealth. There are some responses to these, like cushion padding, and if I get Zarya bubbled or Suzu'd, I might live, but it's not consistent. When I 3-stacked with 2 friends, a Zarya and a DPS support, we won 15 games in a row with 0 losses. Those are the main counters, besides having bad teammates. As someone who usually solo queues, I could complain for hours. So, what are the useful perks? These perks are great for a DPS variation of the build. For the DPS variation, we need maximum health to give ourselves overhealth, but we want ability power to deal damage. If we're doing damage with our fields, we have to be on top of the enemy, which means we're not focused on healing our teammates. Overall, I think giving overhealth is way stronger. Next video though, I will go over a DPS variation, because it hasn't been patched. These perks would be good if we were focused on healing, but we're actually going for overhealth, so they don't really apply. Having a 40% bigger radius is amazing. More range lets us heal further teammates and allows us to split up a tiny bit more. I always take this on round 3 unless I'm trolling. Since we have a huge overhealth buffer, these perks are almost always active. If their team is mostly one type of damage or I'm really worried about dying, these perks can be great. As I mentioned earlier, these perks are great against their respective heroes. These perks are all great for self-survivability. If we're worried about actually dying, these are great. They don't provide a huge amount of value to the team. Us being alive is pretty important. Like I just said, more health is more survivability and more overhealth for our team. This perk is amazing, but it's really hard to get full ult charge without doing the DPS variation of the build. Unlike track and field, this perk was programmed well. This perk does not activate when we start sprinting, so it's useless. More max life is more overhealth. I am probably going to make a part 2 in the future. If you're interested, subscribe. If you have any comments or advice, please comment. If you want to see a 7.5 minute long overtime, check the description.